While people are filing back in here, tearing yourselves away from the pizza, I'll just introduce myself and my coworker. So my name is David Babbitt. I'm Babbitt in the community. Most people, for whatever reason, they start calling me by my last name. That's just how it goes.
Everybody just calls me PSX. I mean,
yeah, that's what I
accept it. Accept it and move on.
What's your real name?
It doesn't bother me at all, actually.
Do you have a real name, Andrew?
Yeah, I have. My name is Andrew.
That's what I was
So let me talk about what my role is and kind of why we're up here. And so my title at SpiceWorks is Technical Program Manager. And so that's sort of that's a position where I am in development, but I'm also trying to direct what the product is supposed to be. And so I work on the code, but I also work with a lot of users to figure out, as a product manager, work with a lot of users to figure out what are we supposed to be doing, how can I take time out of your day. And then I work with the developers to make sure they're building it in the right way in some cases, and also in the right order. And so prioritizing what we build in the product and stuff like that, and coordinating the releases. So that's my role there. This is Jeff Keene. He's with me. He is lead developer for us. He is a UI guy, and he's totally awesome on the UI. And so we're glad to have him up here. So why are we up here? I like coming to these SpiceCorps. A lot of it is just to introduce myself to you guys and get feedback from you guys. Like I said, I'm trying to figure out what's the right thing to build in the product. And so this trip is actually a little bit different than the last time I was up here. And so we've got a couple of volunteers in the Dallas area that are going to let us shadow them tomorrow. And so Adam over here is volunteer number 1. And I don't know if Philip is here tonight, but Philip is also another guy that agreed to let us go around, follow him at work tomorrow. And so I was just telling Adam earlier, like, what are we looking to get out of that? So the example I gave him was, think about SpiceWorks and like the purchasing management side of SpiceWorks. Now, maybe that applies to some of you, maybe it doesn't, but a typical systems or network management application doesn't have any purchasing workflow in it. And the reason purchasing is inside of our application is we look at what IT guys are doing and we figure out IT guys spend a lot of their weeks doing purchasing or managing purchases, writing down stuff that they need to buy on behalf of the companies or whatever. And so we started building that feature. So it's not systems management, it's not network management. That's why it's everything IT. We're just trying to take the time out of your day. And so we're going to be following Adam tomorrow, and we'll be following Philip tomorrow also. And what we're looking for is just, what is your job? And what is it that we can build inside of SpiceWorks that isn't already there that's something completely different potentially? So if anybody else wants to volunteer, we can come back up here on a different trip and sit down with you guys. So
does it generate revenue?
Does what generate revenue?
Your partners.
If you bought from
Generates revenue for them.
I'm just saying.
We can get to how does SpiceWorks make money giving away a product for free. Usually that's a question that I'd like to throw out there later on.
That's not call that.
So I'm going to do a little bit of demo of 6.0, and I was thinking about having our marketers here. One thing that's kind of funny is that they come and they give away tchotchkes a lot of times, and I don't come and give away tchotchkes. I actually come to get something out of you, and it's because I'm giving the product away for free. So what I have,
I want my koozie. I want a orange shirt.
Forget about what we got. What do you got?
So what I'm going to do is pass out paper, and I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and I want you to write down the questions, and through the course of the evening, write down answers to those 3 questions, and I'll take them up. And so let me pass out some papers here. Maybe you can help me do it.
Yeah.
Ends. At least a little something.
You get a piece of paper.
Yeah, really.
Okay, Jeff will pass them out.
Tip of my finger.
All right, so I'll do a little bit of demo while we're papers, and we'll start talking about feature stuff for SpiceWorks and what's that?
You're using Firefox.
Oh, I apologize.
As opposed to Chrome.
Chrome.
Oh, shame.
Sam portal. Oh, this one's logged in as the admin, so I'll show something else.
At least my name's not up there.
First of all, yeah, I was going to say thanks to Sam for setting this up. The last time I was up here, it was at Heritage Auctions, which was, I thought, pretty interesting, just going into that place with the security and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But I don't know, that's also a hassle with security. This is
There's no questions on there.
you're really putting yourself out there to have all these people in the house, like 50 spices. That's pretty crazy.
My paper's blank.
That's right.
Yeah,
you can comment on it.
my paper's blank too.
Penny.
It's invisible. Anybody
right.
else have a blank page?
Everybody's paper. We'll fill them out in a minute. All right.
So you're rating us on.
All right. So show of hands here. So how many people are new to SpiceWorks in the last 60 days?
I can
I think I heard that at the onset. All right, how many people use SpiceWorks for help desk?
Yes. The strongest feature.
Yeah.
I agree. How many people use it not for help desk at all, so just inventory or whatever else you're getting?
Inventory we try.
But we use it for
Well, both.
Not both.
Both.
Only inventory.
Only?
Okay, a couple of guys. So, all right. So, how many people have seen SpiceWorks 6? Oh man, it's gonna be easy.
Easy. Question
All right, so
Easy.
I'll do a high-level sort of introduction to the features, and then you guys just ask me stuff about the different features if you want to see it in more detail. I did a webinar on this a couple of weeks ago. I don't want to go through the whole thing because it takes half an hour or whatever. So there's really 3 big features that we released in 6. One that's not really a big feature that we're talking about, but is the most dramatic thing that you can see here is that the UI change for the people that are familiar with SpiceWorks before 6.0. None of this black bar at the top, and the fact that the window slides underneath, so the masthead's always there. That's a new feature for us. And also the kind of the way that it's laid out on with a fixed width kind of helps us develop it a little bit faster and stuff like that, and helps it everything scale a little bit easier. So we changed some of the UI layout stuff, and we're going to continue working on that.
Can we hide the black bar?
You want to what?
Can we hide the black bar?
Somebody can write a plugin for that.
How to?
Right. I might say that to a lot of the stuff that some of you guys would say. So it's terrible. All right. So the biggest features that we added. So the first one was knowledge base. So for those of you that have been in SpiceWorks for a long time, about let's say 5 years ago, somebody started a feature request in the community and says we want a knowledge base, and so we took some I would say pretty wimpy approaches to like trying to get spearhead the effort on the knowledge base. And it didn't really sort of come to fruition for us until last year, and the CEO sort of promised the feature, and so we had to build it. And that's cool. So I went through
Damn
about
CEOs.
those CEOs. And
They're
so I
always
went through
over.
about 18 pages of the feature request thread. How many people know that we do feature requests in the community?
Yeah.
How many people didn't know? Like, don't be shy. Somebody must not know.
I didn't.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Doesn't mean that.
I think my KB is in there.
Come on, Dan. So, back in the beginning of the company, they decided they didn't want a whole lot of product managers because there's a lot of stuff that gets lost in translation through product management and stuff like that. And so what they wanted to do is have all the developers be connected directly to the users. And so we crowdsourced what features we need to build. And so knowledge base rose to the top of the list. We started working on it. One of the things that we wanted to avoid with a knowledge base was kind of an experience where the new user comes into the knowledge base and what he is greeted with is this empty screen, because then it looks like this monumental effort of like, now I got to start writing a bunch of content and all this stuff. So I actually envision a knowledge base, fed through all the content of everybody like you, where all you have to do is come and find the stuff that you need and just use it. You don't have to write anything of your own. And so we started the knowledge base concept a couple of years ago by introducing the how-tos in the community. And so inside of the community, the users that wanted to write content, they would go and write these how-tos. They were step-by-step how to resolve certain issues or how to diagnose certain problems, stuff like that. And so now, what you see inside the application is essentially 2,500 knowledge base articles or the how-tos that were curated throughout the community over the past few years. And so how do you interact with it? So you might see something on here that is interesting to you.
Oh, look, Justin got
The stuff that we're showing here at the top level is based on who you're following in the community or based on the types of things that you have on your network. And so if people like Plantronics go in there and write knowledge-based articles and we detect that Plantronics is being used as devices on your network, then we would show it. And so that's showing some of the suggestions on here. But the real way you're going to interact with it is you're going to type in here, you're going to search for a knowledge-based article. When you find one that you like, you don't have to write your own. You just bookmark it, right? And then I'm going to go back. No. Once you bookmark an article, then it shows up inside of your team view. So all of the team members inside of your application, if you've got multiple techs working help desk or whatever, they go through here. They bookmark the articles that they like, they find useful, and then all of you can log in, go to the My Team view, see all the content that was bookmarked by everybody on your team. The other thing that shows up on the My Team tab is the stuff that you yourself wrote, and so you can see I wrote one right here, just called test article, and then another one that I actually wrote and published and shared with everybody. And so this is how to do something inside of vSphere. And so when you write articles, you can choose, do I want to share it with everybody? And everyone is everybody in your application. That's everybody. It's SpiceWorks users everywhere. And so you want to give back to the community. You think you wrote something that's not very specific to your environment, but would be helpful to others. Then you can edit the article and change the visibility to say everyone. Right. So that was one of the ways that we build up this knowledge base across all users everywhere. If you're just trying to keep something for yourself, you go to the My Team view. You can do a new article. This just creates one that is specific to you. Nobody else inside of your application sees it. Obviously, nobody else outside of SpiceWorks. SpiceWorks users everywhere see it either. So that's the knowledge base. So we're gonna continue building on that. I'm doing a webinar on knowledge base actually on Thursday morning. So we're driving back Wednesday night instead of Thursday morning because I realized I had to do a webinar. So I'll do more of this. I'll probably show exactly what I just showed right now, but then also show how do you use knowledge base articles on your user portal. So one of the reasons that we wanted to build a knowledge base was you've got users that ask you a lot of questions through the help desk or send you emails or whatever. You want to start avoiding some of that stuff. Well, why don't you put the article right on your portal, and then they can read the article themselves and figure out maybe if it's a change the tone or unjam the printer, stuff like that that they can maybe do themselves. Creating rules in Outlook, whatever, then maybe that's how you can avoid the call. So that's one of the other things. I can show some of that on Thursday.
On the article searches, does it search within the content or just on the subject fields for the knowledge base?
Within the content, and it searches within the scope of the tab that you're on. So if you search everyone, then you're searching all 2,500 articles. If you search just in My Team, then you're just searching the ones that you bookmark.
But it doesn't also inside of the article itself?
And it searches the text as well as the steps and all that stuff.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
If you're looking for knowledge base specific to a particular device, say like a Dell Optiplex, I mean,
we're getting
how
there.
advanced is the searching?
Not very.
Okay.
So, but we're getting
you guys
there.
have a plan to break it into categories where you want to search by device or by?
I would say that's actually not a categorical thing, but yes. Short answer is we added some infrastructure in the last month that allows us to connect what I call any asset in the community, like a knowledge base article or a topic or a post or anything like that. Scripts, connect any of those assets to sort of any subject in the community. Any subjects would be products, would be vendors, would be there's the third one I can't remember right now. And so you can essentially we start connecting the dots. And so at some point you should be able to go to a device and say, here's all the knowledge base articles that are related to this device just because they're tagged. And so it's tagging, not categorizing. In the community, when you go and browse how-tos, you see that they are broken down by category. We didn't bring that into the app just because we didn't have the time to do it. But the plan is to also have categories. So this view that you see right here, pretty simple, search-based. That's how you're going to interact with it. In the future, yeah, you'll be able to categorize and browse by category and all that stuff. So.
Question. One of the things that we were looking at, we love this part of it, but we actually have My Team, and then we have a customized portal that they use, but we want to be able to pull some of these. In other words, we want to publish certain ones for our end user to see.
Yes.
But we still want our IT department to be able to have their own My Team. Is there a way to add more tabs up there?
See,
so this view right here is just your IT team, not your end user.
Okay.
yeah.
And so when you go in here, so the reason it's confusing right now is just because we don't have, we're still working on the portal integration. Right now the portal integration is pretty simple. Right now when you want to share it with end users, you click the share button and it gives you a URL. And that's something that you can put on the portal or that's something that you can email. So one of the things that we wanted to get away from was saying that in order to share with your users, you had to be also using the portal. One of the things that we try to do with SpiceWorks is it works great when you're using all the pieces together, but we don't force you to use all the pieces together. That's why there's people in here that just use inventory. That's why there's people in here that just use help desk, right? And so if you don't use the portal, you still want to be able to use the knowledge base, you can do that.
That was kind of my next question is, what about integrating change management? Let's say, for instance, you've been working on a problem, next thing you know, you discover it needs to roll out to 25 workstations, and you need to notify those workstations.
You need
or
what?
users. You need to notify them or send out a system-wide change notification. I mean, I know it seems like a lot of work, but as far as how it ties into the knowledge base, I mean, wouldn't that be?
I don't know how I connect that
direction
to the
go?
knowledge base. I would connect that more to the help desk. And so if you open, let's say, a ticket that was associated with 25 devices, and then you wanted to send messages to those users or something, that's how I would
Right.
think that you would do change management.
But maybe escalate, maybe putting an escalate button on it, and where it creates a message or something for a change notification.
Yeah, we can talk about
That's
that.
something
We can talk about that
thing-
offline. We are working on some other stuff inside the help desk in this next release, and so we can talk about that offline.
It's like notifying the users is
Right.
always challenging. Whether you pick up the phone and you talk to them, or whether you send out a system-wide email, if you need to
Right.
take
Okay.
down
So
a server
if
for
you want to do
maintenance-
stuff like, no, I agree with you there. If you want to do stuff like put notifications on your portal, make that really simple to where you don't have to go into the portal and like do, like edit and add a content block and then put a message in there. And like,
Yeah,
that's
see.
cumbersome. But if there was a way,
But
where
if
you
you've
can,
been
like,
working
send-
on a specific problem, and what's going to resolve it is rebooting the specific server, and you already know the users that are connected to that server, like the sales group. We got to reboot your CRM server. Escalate it to, the help desk. Notify
what
the
you're saying.
users before a reboot.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's just a suggestion. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
Sounds like a lot
thinking-
like a ticker.
thinking out loud.
Like some of the older news tickers.
Yeah.
That's we have a system like that in Niagara. What could be done with the portal is if you had an RSS feed reader in the
Yeah.
portal and you use a system like StatusNet or Yammer or something like that, you could pull directly in from a
Yeah, I think
status
part of what he was
system.
getting at was you recognize who owns what resources and who uses what resources, and so if you only want to notify those people rather than just setting up like a global feed that's going to kind of signal to noise on that might be not very good.
Yeah, I mean,
Got
the
lots of
choice to
people.
escalate to the end user before you actually do the action.
If you do something like Status or Yammer and you have it log in as the user who's using the portal, it would do that naturally.
Oh, but then you'd have to somehow control when you're doing notifications through Yammer who gets them.
The end user controls that.
Well, that would assume that
Oh, because he
your users
subscribes
have
to
logged
certain
into
channels. I got you.
SpiceWorks.
The more notifications you send to users, the more likely that the more calls you're going to get. Especially with things like that. Typically with server side things, if we're making a reboot of some sort, that's in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So they're not even affected at all. This past week we did an exchange migration, and one of the things that the management wanted us to do is send a company-wide
See,
email
that's a
to let
perfect
everyone
world.
know. But
I like doing mine at 3 p.m., when people are really busy.
But we persuaded them. There's no reason for us to send out a company-wide email or something like that. I mean,
Right.
we give training ahead of time for things such as that. But I mean, if you're going to reboot a server, you're going to do that in the middle of the night. You're not going to do that in the middle of the day, typically.
Okay, but what I'm saying is like an inventory control report that's not functioning properly, and the only way to resolve it is to reboot the server, and you got your whole accounting department waiting on this thing. You got to reboot that server as soon as possible. It'd be helpful to be able to communicate
Yeah, I
that
think
to
you just
the
want an
end
easy way of
users.
communicating with the users that you know users.
Otherwise, you're going to have to do it by hand. You already got a knowledge base that you're working on. Escalate that thing. Push it out.
Couldn't you do that just with CC on a ticket though?
No.
If the ticket automatically associates with all the users that are using that resource or something like that.
I mean, I have a
Or you could
distribution
add
list
DL
I
in
could just
there.
put in.
Yeah.
If I want to escalate it, we're doing a system outage right this second. I want to notify these people before we do it. 2 p.m. Get out or.
So I think the original question was something about putting on the portal. Something related to putting on the portal. Anyway, so the first release of this is what you're seeing here. What you're going to see in probably the next month or so is you'll see another visibility control appear. And so this visibility is sort of IT pro visibility. So which are the IT pros that can see this article? Everyone, your own team, stuff like that. And so the next release, you'll see portal visibility show up here. And then what that means is which of your end users can see it, and not which, but is it appear? Is it an end user facing article, something like self-help? Does it appear on the portal? And then if it appears on the portal, does it require a password for them to see it, or is it just there all the time? And then you'll have features on the user portal that are effectively just the list or search or whatever. We haven't figured out what exactly is going to go on the user portal, but just make it to where they can easily see knowledge to help them resolve issues of their own. you know, notifying them of issues is, I think, slightly separate, but just having the knowledge on there to help them resolve their own issues.
Okay, that did answer my question, but when's the next release? General idea? Schedule?
SpiceWorks.
SpiceWorks.
So October.
So that's when
It'll be, the goal is to put it in beta by October.
There's too many people here. She's not going to sleep.
I'm sorry.
As
Yes.
you're talking about that,
You ever been around kids?
I've spun up more than a few how-tos that are probably not company appropriate. Are we having any type of ability to block people from publishing that internally? You know, I'm pretty sure that most people aren't going to put how to get PSX on their internal KB. I don't know, but some of them are. Some of them might not be very. Some of them might be that, hey, I don't want this to be, you know, hey, you need to know it. This needs to be out to the world, but I don't want to publish it internally. Is there any
You would
controls on
publish it
that?
to the world, but not to your own team.
Well, internally to like third-party teams, you know, I don't want it to be, like I said, my good example is being how to get PSX. I don't think that's going to be floating around in most people's installs, but somebody could put that there. And, you know, we got some joke ones out there that are pretty funny, but...
Yeah, I think so those are groups in the community, and so they are essentially tagged, and so kind of like the water cooler group in the community,
Yeah.
like a lot of searches don't resolve into the water cooler because we know that that's just sort of the blow off steam area and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and so if it gets tagged as whatever category we're filing those in right now, then
Well, yeah.
we'll take those out of there. That's a good point.
Just a curiosity.
All right, so the other big feature that we added, one of the other ones is another iteration on the cloud service detection. And so if you're using SpiceWorks and let's say Rackspace email or Google hosted email or something like that, there's already integrations out there for you to get kind of the status of all the email boxes for the users that are hosted inside of those companies. I think Office 365 or whatever the Microsoft one is also supported in here. So this is the kind of the cloud view that you've gotten a little bit comfortable with. I think this one changed as well a little bit in this release. So we're calling these like managed services. This is something that you go and set up yourself on behalf of your company. You go and set up Rackspace email and you go and add all the accounts for everybody and all that business. And so you need to monitor, you know, who's running that of email inbox space or whatever the case might be, right? The other category of cloud services is unmanaged services. So these are the applications or the websites that your users are using that they don't need to ask for your permission to use it. And so they're unmanaged from your perspective, and so you probably want to know about some of them. Case in point is probably Dropbox, right? Right.
Yeah.
So users are using Dropbox on your network, it consumes some of your bandwidth, and you want to know about it, you want to know who's using it. And so we started scanning for who's using what software as a service without necessarily. Dropbox is sort of a weird example because we detected actually through the connections to the internet and not through the fact that they installed the Dropbox application. Evernote's the same thing. Like you can detect Evernote by sort of looking for the software, but you can also detect by just saying, hey, who's connecting to Evernote? And so things like Basecamp, there is no client for Basecamp. These people just go to the website and SpiceWorks sees that activity and says, hey, these people are using Basecamp. So if you can set up alerts around these, we're going to continue building on these features in the future. If you know that something's being used on your network and you're not getting alerts on it, and you don't see it inside of this list, you can go over to the tool menu here and do request a new service. And this just goes into the feature request form in the community, and you can see, you know, well, we should go ahead and say that one's done, but you can see some of the other ones. Yeah, Carbonite, I think we actually already detect. So you can see some of the other ones that people are requesting, go and vote them up, and then we'll be building on those things. You might get contacted because part of this requires us knowing like what is the IP range for that service and stuff like that.
What about like Facebook and Pandora listed there?
Pandora might be, Facebook isn't. I don't think. And so what we didn't want this to turn into was a Big Brother feature, although pretty much under the covers that's what it is, right? And so
Isn't that who IT is anyway?
I come bearing gifts.
yeah, so and we'll see. I mean, the technology can be used for other things in the future, and we'll see what we end up doing with it. But right now, we're just focused on trying to find, you know, who needs to get the software that they're using on your network, even though it's not installed. You know, you need to manage that.
That was the two biggest where I was at. People getting onto radio streaming sites, hogging the bandwidth, and of course Facebook on company time.
Get on your fire.
Oh, it's my lunch hour.
Get on your firewall. Block it for.
Poison DNS and a firewall.
How is it detecting this? Is this reporting the agent on the PCs or?
No, so it when it scans the computer, it can ask the computer what are you connected to right now, and it doesn't know that it's coming from a browser. Like some of these, like Dropbox, isn't necessarily from a browser, so that's fine.
Do not move.
But since it doesn't ask the browsers on that computer what are you connected to, it doesn't really, it's not a perfect match, but we get most of it. So stuff like LogMeIn could be several LogMeIn products, but we don't know what IPs map to which product yet. So right now we'll sort of show it as LogMeIn. But there's no additional install for this because we're already scanning your network. So as long as we can log into those devices in order to use their inventory, one of the things we now inventory are the websites you're connecting to, so or the internet sites you're connecting to. And so somebody mentioned the agent, I think you just did. So that's the third big feature that we added. So the idea behind the SpiceWorks agent is you've got a mobile workforce. I don't mean phones, I mean their laptops, their sales guys, whatever. They're never on your network. They come and go, and when they're here, their SpiceWorks doesn't catch them on the network and scan them. You still want these devices inside of inventory. And so we built a mobile agent, or a Windows agent rather. It's pretty simple to install. I've got a virtual machine here. We can try to do it, but I can't type, so maybe I won't done with that. But you would go inside of the settings page of the app, go down to remote sites and agents. You can download it. It is an MSI, so there's already a how-to in the community on how to deploy that through group policies. So if you can roll it out to a certain OU or whatever, you can do that.
So, I mean, what does it buy you?
What does that buy
Just
you?
remote control?
It's not remote control. It is inventory of a device that typically isn't being seen by inventory right now just because it comes and goes. And so we've got a handful of salespeople at SpiceWorks that they're basically never in the
So
office.
it basically collects the inventory.
So yeah, all it does is collect the inventory in the local computer, similar to how SpiceWorks was collected by reaching in. It just collects it and then sends it up.
And honestly, if you're in a Windows environment and you don't want to deal with WMI, you don't want to deal with firewalls, use this instead and you can roll it out.
What's the overhead on the agent? Is it a service? A Windows service?
It's a service. It's written in .NET. I don't know. We haven't heard any complaints about that. I don't know minimum requirements or anything like that on it, but I don't think it's.
I mean, how
it
often
scans it
does
frequently. I mean, it's told from the server basically, and so it scans like the interval that you're scanning your network right now. So.
Okay, so it's on the same defined schedule as whatever your current schedule is.
I believe so. I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
There's a setting in there to set the time that it scans. Does that get pushed down? Right there, 10 hours?
Oh, okay.
Does that
that's
get pushed down if you update that?
Yes.
Does it get pushed to all the clients next time they log in?
Yeah.
If you change that to 5 hours, does it update?
It's not even logging in. It's just the servers are talking. The agent's talking to the server all the time, and so it'll get propagated the next time it checks in, which could be in the next 5 minutes.
So use an IP address or?
You can use the name or the IP, and it connects over SSL. And the only thing you have to do is give it a password here, and when you deploy it, if you deploy through group policy, you can do the password.
What? Quick question. What's the port that's used on that?
The same as the
Same as SpiceWorks agent?
443 or whatever. Yeah. I mean,
SSL.
or 9676, depending on which way you've got SpiceWorks installed.
Okay.
So the updates, do they go straight to your server? Do they go with cloud proxy or?
They go
They
straight
come
to the SpiceWorks server. Yeah. So that brings up an interesting question. So if they're never on the home network, then you may want to consider port forwarding through the firewall or something like that, so that they can phone home without having to be on the VPN, or you can just wait for them to be on the VPN and then they'll phone home.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
So that actually does collect in cache the changes when things were installed, things like that, and then sends that information over so you can see
As
the
soon as it can
history
make a
well.
connection after the interval is expired, then it'll send it up.
Good.
And yeah, so Scott brought up an interesting point. So if you want to get out of like the nightmare of like some of the WMI configurations, then this is another way of doing it. Now, the reason SpiceWorks didn't start this way is it's cumbersome to manage a bunch of software. You guys know this better than me. All deployed all across your network. So we made it to where when you update it, you can push out the updates really simply. And I'm not familiar with the technology there, but you can talk to. There will be a webinar on this as well, so you can ask those questions on the webinar. He'll probably demo it. So those are the 3 biggest features that we worked on. So I can we talk about product ideas. We can talk about what's coming in the next release. I mentioned a little bit of it. I don't want to commandeer the rest of the meeting, so we can also move on and just have informal chats. Anybody?
I'll tell you, from coming from told as I was talking to some of the guys outside, coming from previous versions of SpiceWorks, back when it was running as its own app, you had to have a client on each machine. I don't even know what version it was. You mentioned the word SpiceWorks, I started cussing. I'm not gonna lie, I was dead set against it. Moving to the web interface, web interaction, actually is what made me adopt it about 2.5 months ago,
Okay.
and trying to bring it back into our other organization. So I had always fussed about having a lot of the trouble ticket system, having the knowledge base, because we used a separate, we used an old Magic help desk tool for knowledge base articles. Is there going to be any, like, prime example, on Microsoft? If you go through all of their knowledge base articles, there's a platform across the board, the format that it uses, and it keeps it restricted, so that you don't end up with KB articles that are 15 pages long,
Right.
that you read it and you still don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Is there going to be, in the future versions, format structures looking like synopsis?
Yeah, so the format that you have right now,
Because I haven't seen 6.0 yet.
okay, so
Other
the
than what
format
you
right
showed
now
me.
is restricted to sort of the step-by-step, how-to style. And so it has introduction and then as many steps as you want, and each step can have a picture, that kind of thing, and then there's a conclusion at the end. And so we're talking about doing other template types, if you want to call it that, to where you can maybe have break so like if the symptom is this, then check with this, like those types of things. We don't know exactly what that is, which one we're going to do next, but that's the plan, is to have more than just a sort of step-by-step thing that you see right now. So you can see like these are all the steps.
Right.
You know, how to deploy your help desk or whatever is adjusted right here. So
Formatting tools for this coming?
formatting tools?
Yeah, bold things, italicized things.
Yeah, so
that links right in the steps.
So I say that I don't know what the next format type is going to be, the next template type is, but my guess is it's going to be sort of freeform, and you'll be able to do, you know, basic HTML type looking stuff, bolds, lists, numbered lists, italics, that type of stuff. Just because we're trying to transition what used to be called knowledge articles on the, or IT articles on the portal. So we're going to transition all those into the knowledge base, flag them as available on their portal, and those are freeform right now. So that's gonna be our migration path there. We've got other integrations with the help desk coming in the future too. Probably not the next release, but the idea of being able to capture the knowledge that was work that you gained in working a ticket, turn that into a knowledge-based article, and on the portal side, when a user starts submitting a ticket, maybe to automatically search the knowledge base and recommend articles to it. I feel like if I give you a box with 200 knowledge-based articles in it, the user's not going to look in there. And if I give you a search title at the top of the box, the user's still not going to type in there. But he's going to submit a ticket, right? And as soon as he starts typing in a ticket, it's just like when you guys add a topic to the community, just have a search to the knowledge base. Search, give them the answers from the knowledge base, right? If there's anything that so we got some other stuff in the help desk coming up. Yeah, cool. We got some other stuff in the help desk, and then just worked on some big stuff in inventory, and so it's going to be, hopefully, if we get it into 6.2 is actually going to be the release number this fall, so hopefully it'll be well received. 6.0 seems like it's been pretty well received, so thanks for all that feedback. Pardon? 6.2 will be the October release or November. Okay, so you all have a piece of paper, so I want to ask you a couple of questions. Write down the question and then think about it. Think about it for the rest of the meeting, however long it might be, and just give me an answer whenever you've
You can have us email it to you. We've all got something on our head, but we don't all have pens.
That's okay. If you want to email it to me, that's fine too. Some people don't want to put their name on stuff. So I've done this several different ways. You can email me if you want to. My email is davidb at SpiceWorks.com. So first question is, so we have a couple of vendors, marketers in the room tonight, and so first question is, imagine the perfect sort of interaction with the vendor in SpiceWorks. What does that look like? What do you get out of the vendor? And so we're trying to work on engagement with vendors, and we're trying to figure out from the IT pro's perspective, what do you want to get out of vendors?
Free product. Better price.
Write it down. Write down the question if you don't have an answer right now, so you can give me an answer later on. Second question is, so MD moves here, and so email related is, what is something that you do some kind of task or some kind of problem that you have to resolve inside of your email system, once a week, once a month, whatever, the most frequent problem that you're always dealing with in the email world.
Turnover?
Write it down.
Trying to go easy on you. I work in food and beverage. Just getting turnover left and right.
And so the third one is if you had an intern to take some time off of your plate. I'm not offering interns, by the way. But if you had an intern to take time off of your plate, what task would you give your intern that would free up some of your time? That's totally open to you.
We're making ours present the
Bathroom
features of
breaks.
SpiceWorks 6.0 next week at SpiceCorps New York.
So if you have an intern, if you were given an intern, what would you give your intern that would give you time back? So what is something that's tedious, that's maybe not that hard of a problem that you can give to an intern, that kind of thing, but it's frequent enough where you're going to free up a lot of time by giving it to your intern.
Go on vacation, have fun.
Most frequent problem or task with managing email, and what would you do with an intern? Keep it clean.
Well, that just ruins everything.
I know that.
Everybody's scribbling out their answers now.
All right, well, that's all I had. I don't know who's up next.
Do we write our name on this?
You don't have to. If you want to, that's fine. Oh, go ahead and write on there. If you're an MSP or some sort of service provider, you do this for a fee. Or if you're just a IT guy that works at salary for a company and we get different answers from different people. So. All right. That's all I have. Somebody else?
Cricket.
Sam, was there anybody else coming out of this?
I am.
Oh, you are? Okay. Oh, that's right. You're thin.
Brace
Yeah,
yourselves.
All right. Thank you.
He's got
Any
a-
other questions? David B.
You know, doing a presentation, I'm holding a whiskey.
Nice.
Only way to do it.
Are there any inventory?
All of my
improvements
Spice World
coming out
presentations are always done with a martini in my
Are
hand.
there any inventory improvements?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about them. Thank you
I know there was between 5 and 6. So our inventory is a lot better now.
Yeah, we took a stab at using Nmap in this release. It turns out Nmap can be pretty catastrophic on certain networks, and so we're doing more of an opt-in approach right now until we sort of iron out some of those wrinkles. And so like 80% of the people were getting good utility out of Nmap. 20% of the people were getting some sort of weirdness, and then like 1% of the people or less were getting like complete haywire. Like Nmap was crashing switches and taking out IP phones and all kinds of craziness.
You originally installed it, you had it turned on, and then 3 or 4 days later you turned it off.
That's why we do betas. Yeah, we had some angry users.
Betas are for the weak.
Straight to production.
Software's free.